Okay, hello everyone. This is Dan King from Fist Bump Media, and I am really excited to be continuing our webinar series. Today we're going to be focusing primarily on writer strategy. However, even though I'm really talking specifically about writers, blogs, things like that, this is stuff that applies to a lot more than just if you have a personal blog. If you're building, growing small business, have a content strategy and stuff too, these are tips that are going to be really important to really any kind of blogging, any kind of writing and stuff like that you're going to do online. But the topic is these are 4 important tips to improve the SEO, the search engine optimization for your blog. And I think this is a really important one because when it comes to finding new readers, social media will get you so far. Having a good, strong email list will do absolute wonders for you and stuff too. But really, if you think about it, email list is for people who have already found you and discovered you and subscribed, right? And they say, yes, I want this in my inbox. Social media is going to have still it's a virtually unlimited reach, but you're still going to have a little bit of a limited reach because the primary impact from social media is going to be from your own audience, people again who you're already friends with and who already follow you on social media and stuff, right? There is some discovery, there's some viral impact and stuff like that too, as well as friends share content and everything too. But really, when it comes to finding new audience for the content that you're producing, finding new readers, search engines really provide the biggest gold mine of possibility there for you when you're looking for new readers, right? When you want to try to get your content in front of other people. So this is a really important strategy and a really important aspect to any blogger or content producer's toolkit as you're developing and publishing and creating content to try to find those readers, right? There are a few things that I see over and over again that a lot of content producers, a lot of writers, bloggers just seem to miss, right? And just really simply for no other reason than that they don't know. So that's what we want to try to cover today. We want to try to dig into these things, and specifically, we're going to dig in and we're going to be covering these 4 kind of key points, these 4 key areas as we look at how to produce the right kind of content and stuff like that for your blog. The first is how to develop and optimize the single most important piece of content that you'll write. There is one piece of content that I think is more important than anything else, right? Because really, it doesn't matter how beautiful or how poetic or anything like that a lot of your post is. If this one piece is not right, you're not going to get the people to read the post in the first place. So we're going to take a look at that and not only talk a little bit about how to develop it, but really how, more importantly, how to optimize it, specifically really for SEO. Then we're going to take a look at the images, right? The images that you use in your content, on your blog posts and stuff, can be set up and formatted a certain way that can really help kind of give a boost to your content. Because there are certain things that the search engines look for, and if you have these things kind of set up and tagged right, even within your images, then it can really greatly help you out and help you kind of establish as being credible on the topic that you're writing about. The third thing that we're going to talk about is how to structure your content to help the search engines really understand it, but also to really to help them index it. Okay, so it's not, from a search engine optimization perspective, it's not good enough to just write, and just put content out there. Maybe make sure that the keyword is used in the content a few times and stuff too. And while that's kind of important, there are a few things other than that I want you to be able to take a look at and understand, so you can understand how search engines kind of scan the page, scan the blog post, and figure out what it's about and how they're going to help them index it and stuff too. So there's some things you can do in the structure of your content that'll help you out there as well. And then last thing is that we're going to cover today is really why you need links in your post and how you can build them effectively. because this is a really critical thing too. It's not called the World Wide Web just because that sounds fun and there's a lot of W's and stuff, but it's a web, right? Because things are connected, right? So anything you can do to help encourage that connectedness, whether it's within your own website and across out to other websites and stuff too, really enhances your ability to be able to get found for the things that you want to try to get found for. So a very important part of the strategy. I'm also going to try to keep this one pretty quick. There hopefully I think some really great tips in here and stuff too, things that you can walk away and implement right away today. But especially if you're watching this live right now, hit up the chat. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, should be next to us on one side of the video here. If you're watching on the website, on the Fistbump Media website at fistbumpmedia.com, there's probably chat directly below the video screen here. So feel free to hit us up with questions anytime. I'll try to take those as I can. Otherwise, I'm just going to run through and share some of these ideas with you. All right. So this first point about what really the most important piece of content that you have on your website, on your blog posts and stuff too, that you can really improve and optimize to get better SEO. It's really the title is when it gets down to it, and it's going to be a little more than that. But really, the title of your post is probably one of the most critical things that you could do, and here's why, right? Because especially when we're talking about reaching out onto search engines and stuff, think about searchers' behavior. If they're searching for a topic that you've written about, it's going to be that title that is going to be the thing that hits them the most, right? And you're going to have a limited number of characters, and so that is really essentially the title is your biggest sales pitch to try to get them to convince them to come over. But there's a few things you can do in here too. And the screen we're looking at is in a tool that I use on a lot of my websites called Smart Crawl. It's a fantastic tool. A lot of writers, bloggers I know use Yoast. I'm not necessarily going to say one is better than the other, but Smart Crawl is a premium one that we do include in our basic plus hosting. It has a lot of extra performance tools and things like that in it too. It does a few more things than what Yoast does, but really the specific for this piece that we're looking at right now, this screen will actually look pretty similar, whether you're using a tool like Smart Crawl or a tool like Yoast or some other tool, but you usually have the opportunity to edit your snippet area here, right? And there's a couple things that I want to point out to you as well. Is when you hit that, figure out what your focus keyword is going to be for your post. It's really great to have that focus keyword in your title, in the URL, the permalink for the post, right? And then also somewhere in the meta description. Now, in addition to the title, right? The title being, you want to be something very descriptive of what people can expect to find when they come over and read your post. And actually, and this is one thing that a lot of people don't necessarily get and really play around with a little bit too, and I encourage you to try this out sometime too, is your blog post may have a title too, but your meta description, meta title here does not necessarily have to be the same thing, right? So what you see in that little preview is what's going to show up on Google. And it's okay if it says something and it's worded a little bit differently here than it is on the actual blog post when they land on the website, right? But with that said, Google is not into confusion bad, right? They look down on that and they'll ding you for that and stuff too. So you don't want to try to come up with completely different titles that are going to confuse people when they land on the page and go, oh, I'm in the right place. But if you need to tweak some things around a little bit for a title better formatted for the search engine results here, then go ahead and do that, okay? And a lot of times too, you'll see the website name on the end of it. A lot of times that may not even be necessary. If it's your name or your website name or something like that too, may not be necessary. Focus on the title and make it something that's going to be like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. Again, you're thinking about the searcher's behavior, not necessarily what you think your stuff is about, but you're trying to identify to what your searchers when they see this in the results, make them go, oh yes, this is what I'm looking for. I need to continue on to read this. Now, very similarly too, this description is really, really important. And I would argue probably just as important, if not maybe a little bit more than just the title itself. Because the description, what a lot of people will tend to do too when they're writing blog posts is they'll leave that to default to what will end up being like the first sentence or two or whatever from their blog post, and then a little ... Okay, big mistake, right? Because a lot of times that first sentence or two, while it may be amazing, may not be the best thing to try to convince somebody on a search engine that this is what they need to be reading to kind of click over to. So this, even more than the title, the description here is your sales pitch to try to convince somebody to come over and read the content, right? So you want to try to think like features and benefits and things like whatever, but think about what your content is to offer, who it's for, and why they should read it, right? And you can use those kinds of things to try to craft your description here into something so that somebody can look at that and go, yes, wow, okay. And in this case, I'm using a post, and I'll actually be hitting on this a few times too, a post that we've run on the Fist Bump Media blog about Fiverr SEO gigs to really help you drive really great results. I'll talk about that in a second too, by the way, anyway. But yeah, the title here says one thing, but the description needs to try to convince somebody that yes, this is how this is going to help you out. If you're looking to try to boost your website, get better rankings on search engines and stuff too, these gigs will help you kind of decipher that. And this is going to be a guide to help you learn how you can really boost your rankings and stuff too. So that description is that, again, that sales pitch that kind of goes beyond the title, that initial, hey, listen to me, this is why you need to read this, right? So feel free to write a description that may not even repeat anything that's in the actual blog post itself. This is a unique piece of content that is really designed to live on the search engines. Yes, it should include your keyword, your focus keyword, but again, this is a unique piece of content designed to really help convince the search engine user that this is something that they need to click through and read. Got it? Cool. Awesome. And I do see a question out there too, and it's about links. And I'll talk a little bit about the links here in a minute. This one of the later points and tough. So I'll try to kind of dig on the question here from Jolene about no follow links and when to use them and why. So and actually some recent changes with search engines and stuff like that on that too as well. So great question. All right. So when we're talking about that most important piece of content, here's your tips, right? Use your focus keywords in the title, in the permalink, and the description, and then write the title and the description as your sales pitch to convince people why they should click through. Okay, so really important when you're focusing on that piece. Here's the deal, and this is why I call this that single most important piece of content. It's not even your blog post itself, right? It is the piece that people will see on a search engine to determine whether or not they're going to come visit and read the blog post in the first place anyway, right? So that's why it's so important. This one thing can really kind of make or break how you do on search engines, not only with helping out the factors that Google looks at for helping to rank you, but once they do rank you, how do they get through, right? So anyway, cool with that. Let's go to the next one. The next one here we're going to talk about images and how you can optimize your images for your blog post. Okay, and this is another thing too that I think a lot of people really miss. We work with a lot of writers, bloggers, and I'm always kind of in the back end of people's websites, digging and stuff, and they're trying to help them figure things out with their posts and stuff too. And I see this all the time, right? So a lot of times, you take a picture with your phone, snap. Right, and then what's the title of that file, the name of that file, the file name, on your phone is probably got some kind of combination of the year and the date and some random number or something like whatever, right? So it's probably mostly a string of numbers. It is not named, the file name itself is not named what you just took a picture of. Okay, so one really important thing too, when you're adding files to your post, right? If we got this one in the focus keyword here is Fiverr SEO, rename the file to include your focus keyword, right? And you can put more in there and stuff too. And you can see this one, and I know it's really small right there too, but Fiverr SEO is part of the title. And I got technical, gigs, technical audit, I think is all in there and stuff too, because that's what that one is about. It's about a technical audit. But the focus keyword for the post is part of the image title name. And again, a lot of people do know this one, right? Is added to the alt text, right? And this is kind of like the keywords section for your image. So make sure your focus keyword for your image is there, and you can separate some by commas and stuff too, and add a few more if you want to. One thing to kind of keep aware of too with the alt text is there's some ADA tools and stuff, Americans with Disabilities Act tools that help with usability, accessibility issues on the websites and stuff too, that look to the alt text to help people who might be a little bit more visually impaired understand what the image is about. So don't go too crazy with the alt text and stuff, but a great place to put the focus keyword and maybe one or two other that help kind of describe the image itself if you have it. And then this one is not quite as important. A lot of times I actually leave this blank, the title field too, but if you're gonna have something in the title field, it usually defaults to what the file name is. But if you're gonna have anything in the default or in the title field too, you can include the keywords there too. But the biggest ones are really that in the image file name itself, rename the image before you upload it, and check that alt text, make sure it's included in there. Those are your tips right there, right, for optimizing your images. You use your focus keyword in the file name before you upload, and then also use your focus keyword in the alt text. One other really and this is just the thing because we do a lot of web hosting and stuff too. I think from an overall performance perspective, things like page speed are really important too. So probably a good idea to optimize the image. We see a lot of people will take an image and upload the original 10 megabyte file size copy of the image, and then it really slows down your page speed, right, too. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll maybe even run it through a tool like even like a PicMonkey or something like that, where I can kind of do some light photo editing or something like that too, and maybe give it a little bit better crop for what's going to work well with within my post where I want it and stuff too. But then I'll resize it. Most of the time, your blog post is probably going to be around 800 to maybe 1,000 pixels wide. So a lot of times, I might resize the image so it's no more than like 1,000 to maybe 1,200 pixels wide or something like that too. And save it as a JPEG file. And there's some image optimization tools and stuff like that too as well that can even further optimize them and stuff like that too. Like Smush is a great one when you're uploading it, but that can be a factor as well too, just because it impacts page speed. But these things right here, using that focus keyword in the file name before you upload and using it in the alt text once you have it up there too, are really, really important for keyword driven type stuff and really helping kind of boost your content itself. The other stuff is really about performance. All right, so that's optimizing your images. The next thing we're going to take a look at is structuring your content, and this is one thing too. It really depends on the style of content that you're writing, right? So take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but also understand that when you're producing your content, think about some of these things, right? Think about, is there a way that I might be able to creatively use some of these elements and stuff to help me kind of build my content so that it works well with search engines. So one of the things that search engines really like is they like sections, with kind of core ideas and stuff. And, so if you're writing something a little more along the lines of, like a fiction or prose or telling a story or something like that too, this may or may not work, but if you think about it, you'll probably be able to find some ways to work it in, so think about this, right? So structurally speaking, the way WordPress blogs and a lot of other blogs are set up is that the title of the blog post will usually be in an H1 header format, right? And that's the biggest kind of format for the header and stuff. Now, structurally speaking, as the bots from Google and stuff like that too start to scan the content of the page, they will look for a hierarchy and a structure. So you got your H1 as your title. So that's your main kind of header break, right? And then below that, if you use H1 tags, text in your post for maybe breaks of sections here where you see like this bold idea 1, bold idea 2, think of that using header text, right? If you're using H1, you're kind of confusing the search engines a little bit. It's like, hey, what's this thing really about, right? Because that H1 text is the header, should include your keyword in it, right, by the way. But then the next headers within the post are kind of sub ideas from that, right? So the bots and search engines are smart enough to kind of scan that and kind of figure that out to help them kind of understand what the flow of this content is, because they look at that because the bots are really trying to understand the content so that it can really get a better idea of what it's about, right? And this is one of the big things that they look for too. So what I usually suggest for these is to break it up into little subsections, right? If you have kind of core ideas that kind of flow through it, or even steps, elements and stuff like that too, that the reader's kind of going through, break those up and use the H2 header tags for those sections, right? It gives a good visual break, but the H2 header tags also help the search engines kind of understand the flow of the content, the general idea and progress that you're going through. Also a good idea in at least one of the header tags. Don't overdo it and kind of keyword stuff here, but at least one of the H2 header tags throughout the post. Maybe trying to make sure that your focus keyword is in there as well too. But generally, I like to start with a little bit of an overview text to start it off. And then break up into ideas. And then generally speaking, I like each one of these breaks that has a H2 header, each one of these sections to contain maybe around 250 to 300 words of text in there too. So maybe a couple of little paragraphs and stuff too. You don't want it to get too big because then if it's too big, theoretically, you could probably break it down into another section somewhere. But follow the flow of your ideas and don't feel like you need to get stuck to like, I need to have 3 sections that each have 250 to 300 words. If one has 150 words or something like that, another has 400 words, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about that. I don't want to get too technical. But generally speaking, that's kind of around the ballpark and the goal that I try to shoot for, structurally speaking, kind of working down it. And also don't feel like you need to have too many either. Now, one thing that I do as well is if I have an H2 section where I go, man, I got a lot of stuff to cover in this. There's going to be 800, 900 words in there as well too. I might even break it down and put some subheader sections and use H3 header tags for the subsections as well too. Where the H2s are maybe bigger and bolder, H3s maybe a little bit smaller, maybe not bold or something like that too, but help kind of break down the flow and stuff too. Again, this is the kind of thing that helps the search engine bots really decipher kind of the flow, the idea flow that I'm going through, which helps them kind of gather and get into the content itself. So really great ways there to structure and flow that content. So the big tips here are, if you can, try to break content into 250 to 300 word max kind of sections separated by H2 headers. Where you can in there too, again, part of this is making things scannable, make certain elements stand out a little bit. Use bullets, bullet sections and stuff within the context where you can. And again, that's going to depend on the type of content that you're writing. Bullet points may not work. Don't force it. Search engines also kind of like some of the bold text and stuff too, especially maybe early in the post. If you have your focus keyword or semantically related type keywords and stuff in there too, set those in bold, because then the search engine look at that and go, oh, important words, and they'll pick up on that and use that to help them kind of decipher what the text is about. Use things like block quotes and stuff like that too, to really kind of help make the content scannable. And that's one of the things that you really want to do, and it's a user-friendly thing too. And search engines really like user-friendly, right? Because a lot of times people will come visit the post, and before they actually read it, they'll scan through everything, and they'll be looking for things like this. They'll look for, what do the headers tell me about the flow of this content? Ooh, block quote, that stands out. Let me read that one real quick too. So they'll scan it over for 5, 6, 10, 15 seconds or something like that too, whatever, just to kind of get an idea of what the content is about, to help them determine if it's worth their time to actually spend the 3 minutes or whatever to read the post. So anything you can do to help kind of give visual breaks and stuff like that too is a good thing. And again, it really depends on the type of content that you're writing, whether or not this will work for you or not. But use that where you can. And then ensure that your focus keyword is used in the various formats, right? Make sure it's in the body of the text. Make sure it's in the headers, stuff like that too. But another thing that's really important, and I even have some kind of keyword tools and stuff like that I like to use, particularly with like SEMrush and stuff too, that help me do a little more keyword analysis and kind of discover some semantically related keywords. The semantically related keywords might be, if I'm using my example of, the Fiverr SEO, might be my main topic, but it's not necessarily, the only thing that I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about search engine optimization in general. That by itself could be a semantically related keyword. I want to use those types of terms throughout the post and stuff like that as well too, and not just the one big keyword. And I got a question here too about using categories and tags. And I appreciate it. This is a good question here, and I think we're actually probably in a good spot to talk about that too, as we're talking about the content and how we structure that. But the question is, can you speak to categories and tags? How many to use, and which ones impact SEO the most, if at all? Anything about site hierarchy would be helpful. So great question. Thank you, Jolene. And Jolene with all the questions today here. Categories and tags. Typically with categories, I like to keep that as focused as I can, right? Because, and the reason is because with categories, the way, especially a WordPress website will work, is that it'll actually kind of build out pages for each of those category feeds, right? So I'm using an example of an SEO focused blog post, right? So I'll probably have a search engine optimization category for the type of content that I produce on my website. Now, categories, I don't want to have hundreds of them, because as the bots crawl and index my site, one of the things they're looking for those, what are those categories of content that I produce, right? And that needs to be very focused, okay? Focus is a big deal too. So if I'm writing about search engine optimization, I have a category for that, and maybe social media marketing, I have a category for that too. If I have kind of a general realm of kind of main categories that all have to do with that kind of digital marketing space and stuff, it's very easy for a search engine to pick that up. Now, if I start mixing in categories like essential oils, stuff like that too, now I'm starting to kind of confuse the search engines and create category feed pages on my website. Even though I might not be creating a page necessarily, when I create a category, I'm creating a feed page like that the bots can pick up and go, wait a minute, what is this guy talking about? Is he talking about search engine optimization or essential oils? I don't know. So again, you don't want to confuse the search engines. So categories, ideally, really for most websites, I like to stick to what are the 3 or 4 main categories and stuff too. But I've seen websites and my personal blog too, even has some categories and kind of subcategories underneath that too. It gets about 12, 13, 14 total categories that it uses, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it's related and it's focused, right? So I'd say don't overdo it with categories. Keep it focused. And make sure that it supports the overall strategy of the website and what you're about. Okay, so that's categories, right? And then categories, when you're creating blog content too, you could put the stuff into more than one category if it makes sense, right? If I'm talking about producing blog posts and how it impacts your search engine optimization and your social media strategy, I could tag both of those categories in there. That's fine, right? Because I want that post to show up for each of those feeds, where it makes sense, so that's categories. And then with tags, honestly, tags I don't even really use, right? A lot of times within the tools like Yoast and Smart Crawl, stuff like that I like to use, I even kind of turn off search engine's ability to try to even crawl those in the first place, and that's something I see generally recommended a lot. But that doesn't mean don't use tags. I just don't use them for SEO, right? You can use tags if you want. Tags can be a great way to help you kind of figure out even more general topic ideas and stuff too, right? If I'm using tags, using that Fiverr SEO post. Maybe I tag it as Fiverr, because I can go back and I can sort the post and find content and stuff too, all related to Fiverr that I'm about. But you see where something like Fiverr is not necessarily kind of a keyword that I want to try to focus for on my website. So feel free to use tags, but I would suggest using that more as a back-end management of the website, not so much for SEO purposes. I kind of turn that off, but you can put as many tags as you want on it, considering that. I just don't want search engines to try to figure out what my website is about based off of tags. I keep it focused on the categories. Hope that answers your question, Julian. So thank you. That's a good one. All right. So moving on, and then now we're going to talk about links a little bit, right? So with the effective use of links and how it can help you, with your search engine optimization, is this one of the other elements that as the bots kind of scan your content that they're actually looking for. It's like, hey, what content is linked here? And what does that tell us about what's really important in this post or on this page or whatever it is, right? So generally speaking, when we're creating links, I like to really kind of do two things, and really the big thing is as I'm creating this content, I like to make sure every blog post has at least 2 internal links to other pages or posts or whatever on my own website, and then 2 external links. Now, don't feel like that's a hard, fast rule and that you need to limit yourself again. If there are several links that you can link out to, that's great. Do it, right? That's fine. Because again, it's the World Wide Web. The idea there is that Google likes when things are connected and it's not just a standalone piece, kind of trying to create a world all for its own. Everything is connected there throughout the web too, and we're kind of linking through. So generally speaking too, also when I add links, and this one's kind of hard to see, but but in the content, I've linked the text, and the text that you select to actually link, which is shown here, is Fiverr SEO gigs. And you kind of see in the back of the post back there too, that's where it is. I use that term in the flow of content and stuff too. I highlight that, and I'm linking those terms right there. Fiverr SEO gigs. You see Fiverr SEO. That was part of my focus keyword too. But I'm not doing just Fiverr SEO. I'm doing Fiverr SEO gigs, right? Again, it's a different. Technically, it's a different keyword term, right? A phrase or whatever. So it's that semantically related kind of thing. And then I link to it. And now that's a link that I'm linking to off of my website. So then again, as a general rule, anytime I'm linking to content off of my website, those 2 external links that I put on my blog post, at least, I want those to open in a new tab, right? And then if you're doing links to internal content, another page or another blog post on your site stuff, then you want those to, uncheck that, so that it opens in the same tab. And here's part of the reasoning for that, right? And is because one of the things that search engines also look for too is when visitors come to your website, that they will see, how long the person spends on your site, how many pages do they visit, right? So when you're using internal links to other content on your website, basically what you just did is you increase the number of pages that they visited. If they click through on that, right, you increase the number of pages they visited because they go to another page. Hopefully from there, maybe they go to another one and continue to increase. And it increases the time that they're spending on your website, right? And the way a browser works, everybody knows this too, is if they want to get back to the blog post, click the back button on your browser or whatever, and that's fine, okay? With external links, however, you don't want them navigating away from your website and they can click the back button to get back, right? But you don't want them, navigating away from your website because it ends that session, right? And they may have gotten 30 seconds into reading that blog post, clicked on a link, and then now they're on somebody else's website, right? They click back. I mean, it's starting a new session all over again. So when you're keeping them on your website, and pointing to other resources on your website, keep it in the same window, the same tab. When you're using external links somewhere else, have it open the link in a new tab, so that it opens there. They can see that resource there and stuff too, but it leaves them running your, that session with your website, right there in the original tab that they started at. So that's going to help the quality metrics and stuff too that sites like Google and stuff like that are going to look at to really determine how authoritative you are, and determine the level of the quality of your content. If somebody comes from search, they land on your site and they're there for 20 minutes, then they're picking up on that going, wow, this reader must be really enjoying this. This must be good content. So they tend to boost you that way. So you make sure you keep them on your website where you can, and don't send them off unnecessarily. Now, the question I got earlier in the chat about no follow links and when to use them, there's actually been some recent changes and stuff within, especially with Google, in how they look at follow and no follow links, and basically that stuff is becoming a little bit less important as a ranking factor. But they've done some things to even try to kind of qualify what type of follow or no follow link is this and stuff too. So there've been some changes there too. One thing I would say, generally speaking, is with things like how your comment tool works and stuff. If you have the options there with it and stuff too, I would set links in your comments to be no follow, because basically, without getting too technical, it can send a little bit of your juice away to somebody else, but it's not so much in a harmful way, I think, to you. It's just it's in a way that really helps somebody else a lot more. So you'll tend to get more people coming to your site to leave comments on your blog and stuff like that too, because the link will give them a little bit more credit. But see, that's the thing. Search engines are kind of picking up on some of those disingenuous tactics that people use for search engine optimization and stuff too, saying, this is all people are doing. So they're just going to kind of, not credit that as much as stuff anymore. So that's one big thing too, is what I see, and I see a lot of other SEOs talking about too, is that the follow, no follow links and stuff like that too are not becoming as important of a ranking factor. If you're going to focus on things that are ranking factors, some of the other things that I've kind of covered in this webinar and stuff like that too are bigger ranking factors. Even the thing here where I'm talking about open external links in a new tab and internal links in the same tab, keeping them on your website, I think would be a bigger deal than whether a link is a no follow or not and stuff too. But yeah, that term, that no follow, is really just about a little tag that you can put in the link that tells the search engines what they should be doing with that stuff too. Just really not becoming as important these days anymore as some of the other factors. So I would just say not to worry about that too much. So here's your tips essentially for the effective use of links. Really, again, not a super hard fast rule, but where you can do this, definitely 2 internal links and 2 external links in every post. Especially when you're doing internal links, look for ways that you can make it related, right? Use semantically related in other terms as anchor text. And it's even okay to just even use text like click here and stuff like that too. Well, I think it's like, that just looks weird stuff, but it's okay if it's that. But where you can, if it's a related post about, if I'm talking about Fiverr search engine optimization gigs, and I want to point to another post or a page on my website that has to do with search engine optimization, I can highlight that term, search engine optimization, and then link to the page on my website that talks about that. So I try to do things like that to make sure that the anchor text that I'm linking is good text and stuff and descriptive of where they're going to go. Within the anchor text. Internal links should open the same window, and external links should open in a new window, and that's kind of the summary of the tips there and stuff. So that's that, right? So we've really just hit how to develop and optimize the single most important piece of content that you'll write, that title and that description. It's called the meta title, meta description, and the URL should all contain your focus keyword, but really drive the sales pitch essentially on search engines. It's a unique piece of content that's going to live on the search engines to help convince people that they need to click through and come visit your website. Do a couple things with your images, right, to make sure that those are tagged right. From a performance perspective, it definitely helps to make sure you're using a tool like a Smush or something like that to help optimize the images stuff. That goes a long way too. But definitely make sure that the file name, the alt text and stuff like that too are set the way you need to for your focus keyword. How to structure your content, be smart about how it flows, help the search engines out where you can with that structure. And then the links, right? And we just talked about that one. The internal, external. Make sure there's a couple of them in each of those in every blog post and stuff too. Now, one thought that I'll leave you with here as well is, as we wrap this up, is that when you're looking at ways to improve the SEO for your blog, one of the single most important factors that you can do is not write for SEO. Okay, don't write for the search engines, right? Write for your reader, because ultimately that's one of the big goals that the search engines are trying to figure out. Because if you think of the search engines' perspective on what they're trying to do, is they are trying to provide the best answers they can for people who come to them with questions. Okay, now ideally, if you can help answer those questions well, right, then or be the right resource for the topics that they're looking for information on, or anything like that, right? You do that well and you get ranked, right? Google's really they want to make sure that they're sending somebody to high quality content, right? If you're going to leave Google, they want to make sure that they're going to high quality content, because that makes them look like a good resource, right? So ultimately that's their goal, is for them to look like a good resource to help kind of boost how much people will come back to them to try to find the answers, right? So you can leverage that and get in yourself to be that resource. So anything you do, if you're trying to write to try to impress the search engines, then you're not as much going to be impressing people. And that's what they're always trying to do, is they're trying to figure out how to impress people and stuff too. In the websites that we work with, I see this a lot, especially in small business, because we monitor some of this stuff a little bit closer with some small businesses, is the small businesses that we work with that do this well and produce good, helpful content on a regular basis. I just saw recently Google did some big algorithm updates and stuff too, and the volatility and what's happening with people's rankings was through the roof, right? And then I look at our sites and it's like stable, perfect, normal range, right? No changes because they have a good content strategy and they're producing it well. So yeah, definitely the most important thing that I can probably tell you here too is just write for people, write well, do what you do, right? Create your great content, right? And then look at that post and say, okay, what is this about, right? And that's how you determine what your focus keyword is, and how all of these other elements should kind of come into play for how you structure it and build the keyword in different places and all that stuff, right? So do that first, write for people first, and then optimize that for SEO for what it's already naturally about. So with that, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I will throw this out there real quick too, is that because I talked about a post that we have on it and stuff too, and we've got a great post on our blog about Fiverr SEO gigs, Fiverr SEO gigs and stuff, and it's really kind of a guide to help people understand how they can use certain gigs too. But we've got a lot of great gigs that you can look at, and some of it's built for local businesses, but some of the stuff too is get a little technical SEO audit on your website, things like that too, things that might be able to help you out a little bit as you're trying to kind of figure out and navigate, how do I improve the SEO for my site and stuff too. So some good resources there and everything as well. But with that, I just want to say thanks for the time. Boom, big fist bump for you, and have a awesome day.